we also have increased move speed. I can see Wesker's fucking portrait below these words, mate. I've only just picked him up, and he's probably going to get fucking nerfed now, isn't he? So you're basically, on high efficiency teams, you will always have 2 other survivors at the very least on gens, and those could be separate gens, which is usually what leads to the killer losing 2 gens at the beginning, because it's not going to be 180 seconds for them 2 generators, 90 each, you know. That's 2 separate people going through their own 90 seconds concurrently. So they're going to reach the end at the end both at the same time, which is why you lose 2 gens. I'm a player, by the way, not a developer. So there you go, the first perk into, let me see what this is at the top. This update features balance changes to a selection of the strongest and most frustrating perks to face. The first one is a gen defense perk. I do see background player here, you know, literal speed hacks, so we'll see what's happened with that. Let's be enlightened by who I assume is Peanuts on why this perk has not been problematic, and why speed hacking in the video game is actually viable, fun and legal. We have reduced the movement speed and instead reduced the exhaustion duration to compensate. Because we can't nerf survivor perks, can we? We can't stop the flow of drool from the corner of the mouths of survivor players, can we? We can't stop that. We have to compensate. Because otherwise, we'll be review bombed on the Steam store by fucking babies and man-childs who can't understand or can't accept, I will say, just to recycle my words there, accept how to take an L in the modern fucking gaming world, mate. Buckle Up no longer provides endurance, thank fuck for that. New, here we go. What's before I read this, I'm going to say it because it's the same as what I say when they nerf survivor perks but buff it to something that's completely different. This will be some other bullshit fucking effect now, but I'll make it just as problematic, just in a different flavour. Scourge up pain res, here we go. Decrease regression effect to 10%, 15, 20%, so it's a 5% regression. Death Note, pain resonance finds itself in almost 40% of all loadouts. Why? Why is that? Why do we think that is? This perk that performs consistently with gen defense and slowing gens down is in 40% of all loadouts. Why do we think that is? Couldn't be that there's something wrong with gen speeds, or there's something wrong with survivor repair speeds, things like that. Couldn't be that. Not a fucking chance. We want to make this perk less of a clear choice for our builds. It's always going to be a clear choice until you address the gen situation. Fucking hell. I can't fucking... Oh, because I know the world's getting fucking dumber by the day, but holy fucking shit. A perk, Pain Resonance, finds itself in 40% of all loadouts. That would tell you that it's, you know, to address a problematic part of your game. Because it's basically mandatory in a lot of instances these days, you know. So let's nerf it to make it less viable, you know. Decreased invocation time to 60 seconds. That is a 50% decrease. So now it only takes 1 fucking minute to put brand new part on every generator on the map. This relied on players knowing all the details of each item. No, it didn't. It relied on people fucking finding out what things did. Fucking hell. With a growing number of killer-specific items, that's getting harder to do. With a little explanation mark. It's getting harder to do. Don't you worry. Fucking hell. So yeah, any new killer that comes out now, guys, we're not going to have any sort of surprise or have to discover what things do, you know. It's just going to be, you're going to pick it up, big fucking plaque. Here's what it does. For fuck's sake. Removing the fucking spark, or what little spark this game's got left. Alright fellas, we're going to look at the patch notes. I'm just going to give my reactions to them. I haven't actually read anything about these yet. I've not read them specifically. I've just heard from the DVD interwebs as a whole that, as usual, all the wrong choices have been made. So we're just going to look through them, see what happens, see how surprised and just what happens, you know, we'll see. But yeah, we're just going to go straight for it. So, the Behaviour Interactive thread, as this is from Reddit, would say, we're heading into our 9th year, alongside a brand new chapter coming in the 8.0.0 update. We prepared a large number of balance changes and quality of life improvements, probably only for Survivor, for existing content. As always, these adjustments will head to the PTB shortly, where we'll collect feedback and make some tweaks where necessary before the update releases on all platforms, or do fuck all like we normally do. So going into this, obviously you may be able to tell by my commentary, if it is your first video from me, we are a critic of this game because there are specific things that are just not right in terms of the development. There's been very questionable design choices been made in very recent years, and most of them relate to how they are consistently dumbing the game down for stupid people who play it. So we'll have to see how this goes anyway. We start with the good guy, Chucky. This is a licensed character, so careful. You know, people are paying you to put their characters in this game, so we'll see what's going on here. So there's 3 changes I can see immediately because it's capitalised. Decreased hidey-ho cooldown to 12 seconds was 18 seconds. Okay, that's a buff. Immediately that's a buff. I don't play too much of Chucky personally, so I can't really make a properly evaluated thing about this anyway. But at face value, I would say that that is a buff, because usually when I was playing as him, it did feel too long. Felt like his power was down for a lot of time. If you miss a slice and dice or come out of his power just because it expires, you have a lot of dead time. So yeah, relatively happy about that one, to be honest, because it means you can go in and out your power altogether. Usually what happens with this game, though, I'm not even looking down yet, as I say. I'm just going to say this, I'm staring at my fucking wall as I presently say this. Usually when they buff things for killers, they issue a massive nerf in return, so I'm fully expecting that's probably what the next line is going to say. Change. Chucky can only scamper while performing a slice and dice attack. There it is. Right, so basically here we go. We've started with Chucky now, of just stripping all depth from the game and making it so survivors don't need an IQ to play against the killer, because people can't take L's in this game. This is what it comes down to. I know it's an hard pill to swallow, but you have to get used to it if you want to be a viewer of this channel. We dish out the realism, you know. Yeah, I'm not going to fucking sit here and say that, you know, the endumbing of Dead by Daylight is anything not to do with the stupid people that play it. But yeah, this basically makes him very two-dimensional, because that basically means if he's stood... I'm going to pitch a shack pallet for this example. Survivor runs to shack, they pre-drop the shack pallet. Okay, so usually what would happen with Chucky would be that you could enter hidey-ho and immediately just scamper under it. But now, you get it dropped in front of you, you have to back up slightly, charge slice and dice, and then get the charge off. And this charge continues after you've scampered under the pallet. So all survivors actually have to do now is, unless Chucky just breaks the pallet. Again, this is a theme that's becoming relevant. We're actually stripping all actual entertainment from the game and gameplay depth by turning the game into just break pallets. Pallet gets dropped, break it. No gameplay. That's what they're doing with all the killers from recent changes. So now if he doesn't break the pallet, and you do actually go for the scamper under the slice and dice, the survivor can basically just stand to the left or the right and be completely safe, because he will continue running at a massive distance. I mean, you can aim it towards the lockers, so you just hit the wall, but even then, you endure a stun. So they can either go for the window or revolt over the pallet. Fucking dumb change, again. Change, the next one, decrease the time it takes to scamper to 1.3 seconds was 1.4 seconds. Why? 0.1 of a second. Okay, I'm happy for anybody who wanted 0.1 of a second changing in fucking scamper time, you know? Fuck me. Dev note, here we go. These are always the interesting parts. Let's see what bullshit they're going to spout, you know. I'm going to assume there's no tag at the top here, but this is probably written by Peanuts, Behaviour's #1 survivor main. So they demonise killers all the time when they write patch notes, but we'll see, you know. Won't jump the gun. Dev note, Scamper could sometimes lead to unavoidable hits. Yeah, this is written by Peanuts. Since survivors could not possibly get someplace safe in time it took for Chucky to crawl under the pallet. You mean like shack window? That's literally... shack window could be reached in the time that Chucky actually scampers a pallet. Fuck me. We want to shift his gameplay away from these easy hits, Scamper then basic attack. Wow. Because it's the power roll, you know? Killers have to kill. It's almost like hitting people with basic attacks is part of the core gameplay. Is it not? And instead, encourage using his slice and dice attack. So you're trying to gaslight everybody into thinking that this is for the benefit of Chucky, aren't you? Because basically you're saying instead encourage using his unique slice and dice attack. For what? Again, I'm going to take you back to Shack Palette, guys. The incentive to use, or encouragement I should say, to use slice and dice in this instance is to have a survivor put a pallet down in front of you, back up, charge your slice and dice, and then throw yourself into the fucking lockers in the shack. And I really needed to be encouraged to do that. I'll say that. Fucking hell, that's exciting. Since this change would affect his strength, we have reduced the cooldown of slice... There you go, there's the source of what I was talking about a minute ago, where they buff and then massively nerf. We've reduced the cooldown of slice and dice to allow Chucky to use his power more frequently. Yeah, just a nerf. I would not expect this guy to be seen after this patch, quite honestly. I think with something like this, because this just strips it, basically makes he has to break pallets now. He just has to. There's actually no reason to use Scamper, thinking about it. Ever. I don't think. I mean, I don't play Chucky anyway, so I can't really come up with a situation, but at face value from what I'm imagining, yeah, it's just dumbed right down. But yeah. His play rate's definitely going to go down, I think. Right, anyway. The Cannibal. So Bubba's getting changes. Good fucking lord. Change. Increased chainsaw sweep distance to 2.5 seconds per token was 2 seconds. Right, here we go. So we buffed that, so where's the nerf? We've got 0.5 of a second extra. Increased chainsaw movement speed to 5.35 meters a second was 5.25. That's 2 buffs. Decreased collision detection size to help navigate tight spaces. That's a quality of life change. Which is also kind of a buff, but not at the same time. It's just genuine gameplay. That's 3 positives. Decreased base tantrum time to 3 seconds was 5 seconds. That's 4 buffs. Several add-ons have been adjusted accordingly. Okay, there it is. So most of his add-ons are probably going to be dog shit, if I had to guess based on that. That's 4 buffs in a row. So there's got to be something that's been done to him. I think they've nuked his add-ons, but they don't say in the PTB patch notes. You can't just issue 4 flat buffs like that and then not do anything if your company name is behaviour. Dev note, to reduce the Cannibal's dependence on certain add-ons, here we go, yep, we've nuked his add-ons. That's basically what adjusted accordingly means in this situation, I believe. We've taken part of the effects of the most popular add-ons. I believe were Engravings, was it? Engravings Primable? I mean, I always use Primable, but I don't really play Cannibal either, to be honest. I used to just use Primable because it was faster chainsaws. Incorporated them into his main... Oh, hang on a minute. Let me just see what they're trying to... Let me see if I can figure out what they're trying to talk about here. So they've incorporated some of them into his base kit. So the increased chainsaw sweep duration. That was Chili, wasn't it? Award-winning Chili. I think. Or was it... No, it wasn't Iridescent Flesh, it was... What's his other Eerie? Is it just the Carburetor? Carburetor, I don't know how to say it. Tuned Carburetor. Carburetor, that's it. I think. I don't know if that's Billy's though. I don't know what his other Eerie is. I know there's Iridescent Flesh. Increased chainsaw movement speed. Maybe that's chili. That might be award-winning chili. Possibly. Detection size was depth gauge, wasn't it? Depth gauge rake, I think. Or it decreased. No, that decreased the tantrum time, I think. So that's been used. So we're looking at possible nukes of depth gauge rake, chili. Both chili add-ons, actually. Just chili and award-winning chili. And something else. I don't know which one the sweep duration is. I think that might be engravings. Oh no, is it? Yeah, one of his other areas is engravings, isn't it? Iridescent engravings, I think. Or Doom engravings, Beast engravings. It's one of them. Yes, to reduce the Cannibal's dependence on certain add-ons, we've taken part of the effects of the most popular add-ons and incorporated them into his base kit, and toned down the add-ons to compensate. Why would you do that though? Why not just make new add-ons for him? Why take the most used ones and not go the interesting route of buffing some of the other ones? So that they might be used and you'd get different flavours of Bubba, you know? From match to match. Instead of literally just taking the meta shit and putting it into his base kit. Don't make fucking sense to me, this. This way they'll feel less essential and allow you to experiment with other options. Yes, but why use the ones that you've now toned down though? You know? Or why give it him base kit, but also then probably still use these fucking add-ons anyway for even more? You know? Why not buff other ones? Fucking hell, we've got, what is it, Thompson mix or something, where when you down survivors, they can't see them or something when they're outside your terror radius. What the fuck's that doing? Use that for something that's going to be used, you know? Fucking hell. We've also reduced the size of the chainsaw's collision detection against the environment to make it less likely to bump into things that aren't directly in front of you. This is good, to make it easier to use his power in tight spaces. Good. And reduce the tantrum duration in case you still bump into something. Right, so somebody on the dev team has been looped around a tight loop and got stuck on objects. That was what that tells me. So that's 4 straight buffs to Bubba and possible add-on nukes. So, I mean, it looks like from both from both sides, they're just turning both sides of the player base into, you know, people who just press W and drool comes from the corner of the mouth. But anyway, there you go. I'm happy for the Bubba mains. Death Slinger. Dear Lord. Change. Decrease stun time when a survivor breaks free to 2.3 to 2.7 seconds was 3 seconds. Nerf. Increased real speed to 2.7... Oh no, hang on a minute. No. That's not a nerf, that's a buff. I thought it meant to survivors. That is a buff. But it's only 0.3 of a second, so you're probably not going to feel it. Increased real speed to 2.7 meters a second was 2.6, that's a buff. Increased movement speed while reloading to 3, right, that's 3 buffs. And there doesn't appear to be a negative. Okay. Slinger's been buffed. Every second counts, so we've made some tweaks to save the Death Slinger some time when reeling and when a survivor breaks free. We also have increased move speed. I can see Wesker's fucking portrait below these words, mate. I've only just picked him up, and he's probably going to get fucking nerfed now, isn't he? We've also increased his movement speed while reloading so he doesn't lose as much distance in the process. Okay, so Death Slinger has just been buffed. Unilaterally. Good. Fair enough. They've kind of just integrated some of his add-ons into his base kit again, same with Bubba. But they apparently haven't changed the ones they've integrated. Because they've basically... It's not the same as the add-ons, but the top one, I believe, is Base Shore Cigar. The real speed, I believe... It's been ages since I played Slinger. I did main him for a little while. I can't remember what the real speed one is. Might be Wanted Poster. Or Wanted Poster was... No, I think that's when you miss. It's slightly it lowers the speed of missing, I think. And increased movement speed while reloading, that's... I think it's Jaw Smasher. Or Chewing Tobacco. It might be Chewing Tobacco. Or maybe Chewing Tobacco's real speed, actually. I don't know, whatever. They've basically... There are add-ons for all 3 of these things, though. For Slinger. So they basically just give it him at base kit. So they've not done anything with those add-ons, so I don't know what the fuck's going on. because they've done it with Bubba, and just several items have been adjusted, but they've not adjusted his Slingers. Right, let's see how they've massacred Wesker now that I've just picked him up. Change, decrease hindered penalty from infection to 4%, it was 8%, that's a nerf. 4% hindered based on things I've seen from other effects and powers is literally useless. You probably won't feel it. Infection is now reduced to 1% when hooked, it was 50%. So your hooks are basically coated in disinfectant now then, is what that tells me. Right, come on Peanuts, tell me what's wrong. Why am I so evil? Dev note, on top of Virulent Bound being a strong chase power to begin with, one that you have to use your brain against, infected survivors are also suffered from a severe movement speed penalty. We have reduced this effect to 4%, still significant, no it's not, but not a death sentence. It's not, 4% is not significant. It really isn't. 4% you do not fucking feel, mate. I've played on the perspective of Survivor when there's been, I can't remember what it is, there's add-ons and perks that do reduced, they do to 4%. 4% is like a standard thing they use for hindered. There is one or two things I've been hit by playing as Survivor, and it felt no different from regular running. So it's not significant. We have also further reduced Survivor's infection when hooked to make tunneling, chasing them as soon as they are unhooked. Just in case you didn't know, guys. Just in case you didn't know what tunneling was, you know. Chasing them as soon as they are unhooked. Disgusting killer mains. That's what they do, you know? Because there's nothing out, there's no other way killers can actually kill people these days, you know? Because of gen speeds. But gen speeds are fine. Don't you worry your pretty head. Less of an obvious choice. They'll still tunnel though. You're not going to... I mean, he's got bound anyway. It's similar to the Blight problem, where you can reduce the hindered, but it's not going to do anything because he can catch up very quickly, because he can bound. So it's not going to stop tunneling. Nothing is going to stop tunneling in this game until you fix the fucking gen speed issue, and not by implementing second chances and all this bollocks that keep putting into the game with hand holding and all that, because it's the wrong way to balance your game. But we don't learn, so tunneling will be relevant for a very long time, probably. The Blight. Here he is. The meta monkey choice. Compound 33 now increased Compound 33 now increased rush turn rate and duration by 11%. That doesn't make grammatical sense. But yeah. Now turn rate and duration is 11%, was 33%. That's a 22% nerf. Change iridescent blight tag now increased rush speed by 10%, so that's also a grammatic error. That's halved. So that's a straight nerf. Dev notes, the Blight's ultra rare add-ons have proved to be too strong, so we have toned both of them down to a more reasonable level. Okay. Don't really have anything else to say about that, quite honestly. He's the top killer in the game because he's the only one that's fucking useful at IMMR. Toolboxes, minor update. Change. Increased toolbox sabotage speed across most variants. Why? To promote toxicity. Change. Increased effects of sabotage related add-ons. Grip wrench, cutting wire hacks, or... Fucking hell. Are you aware that Alex's existed? Like, if you want to go around sabotaging hooks and things like that, just pick Alex's toolbox. So what's Alex's toolbox now then? Just some guy called Alex brought his toolbox into the realm. No relevance. Fucking hell, dude. You've got 2 purple toolboxes. One is specifically made for sabotaging. Now all the toolboxes are made for sabotaging. You can't tell me with a fucking straight face, mate, they play this game. Fucking hell. They're so clueless. Dev notes, toolboxes are often considered the repair item. Yeah, because they are. There is one fucking sabotage toolbox though, in case you forgot the existence of that, you know. Again, for those at the back, Alex's toolbox. While this is fine for those who want to use them to repair, we'd like to make sure the sabotage feels a viable alternative for those who want it. Okay. So more, you know, 4-man prick squads running around with sabos, whilst also being able to repair, probably, at the same time, because they don't need to run Alex's this time. I don't believe Alex is nerfed repair speed. I think it was the same as a brown toolbox maybe, but it was very fast at saboing. I know that with Alex's, if you stand in front of a hook, while you're healthy, make the killer hit you, you can sabo the hook before the killer can recover. So it's a guaranteed sabo. And then as soon as you let go of the hook, you can dead hard if the killer swings to try and down you instead, because now he doesn't get that hook. That kind of thing. That's probably relevant, but you can probably do that with all toolboxes now then. Okay. This update features balance changes to a selection of the strongest and most frustrating perks to face. Oh, look at that. We start with a killer perk. I did look down there. The majority of these adjustments are slight. I'll be the judge of that. The intention is to keep the perks feeling effective and to bring them a bit more in line with other options. All, what, fucking 500 and odd other options where you just refuse to touch them perks and just keep nerfing this, nerfing gen defense and things like that because it's the only viable way for killers to play games these days, but alright. So Deadlock. Decreased block duration, yep, that's already a nerf, to 15, 20, 25. So basically this is 25 seconds down to... Right, we've trimmed 5 seconds off it. Nerf again. Because we don't understand why gen defense is actually needed. Because we don't play the game, as I keep saying. Deadlock is quite effective while being rather easy to activate. Okay. We have slightly reduced the duration of the generator blocker to bring it in line with other options. I just want to bring your attention to this first sentence of this dev note here, ladies and gentlemen. Deadlock is quite effective while being rather easy to activate. This is coming from somebody who plays at baseline MMR as a party game once every fucking 3 months at release. Rather than actually playing the game publicly and, you know, actually getting to anything that resembles mid to high MMR. I'm not using this as an insult, this is a genuine observation, by the way. This is what it is. You've just got literally Ash rank killer player balancing the game, basically. This is what this is. Deadlock is quite effective while being rather easy to activate. This only activates when survivors do gens, so whilst it is easy to activate in sense of them doing gens, it stops you losing 2 fucking generators immediately. Because usually what happens is 2 generators will pop, one after the other. Because when survivors spawn in, there's only ever going to be 1 person in chase, most of the time. So you're basically, on high efficiency teams, you will always have 2 other survivors at the very least on gens. And those could be separate gens, which is usually what leads to the killer losing 2 gens at the beginning, because it's not going to be 180 seconds for them 2 generators, 90 each, you know. That's 2 separate people going through their own 90 seconds concurrently. So they're going to reach the end, at the end, both at the same time, which is why you lose 2 gens. I'm a player, by the way, not a developer. Facecam was relevant for that, because I legit had a fucking Gordon Ramsay fucking just instinct face pull in there, because it's very fucking obvious to me. I really don't know how you can be in the position of a developer and not have a fucking clue what you're doing. But it's the same thing with TCM, and it was the same thing with VHS. That's now dead because they refused to buff killers in that game, and it's dead. It's like the ASIM genre as a whole just has this curse on it, where it just makes the people who develop the game fucking thick as pig shit, and they don't know what they're doing. It's bizarre. It's genuinely bizarre. So there you go. The first perk into... Let me see what this is at the top. This update features balance changes to a selection of the strongest and most frustrating perks to face. The first one is a gen defense perk. I do see background player here, you know, literal speed hacks, so we'll see what's happened with that. Yeah, we are moving on to that actually, because we've read the dev note on that. So this is a survivor perk. I've not read it yet, so I'm expecting a buff. change decreased movement speed bonus to 150%, was 200%. It's nice. So this now takes it down to adrenaline speed. And sprint burst speed. So this is baseline just speed perk now, which is good. So it won't be speed hacks anymore, but it'll still be... You'll still outrun killers with it. Decreased exhaustion duration to 30, 25, 20 seconds from 40. Again, I don't have a webcam, so these bouts of silence aren't going to have much impact. My fucking head's in my hands, mate. This update features balance changes to a selection of the strongest and most frustrating perks to play. Deadlock. Nerf. Killer perk. Background player. Survivor perk. Buff. Fucking hell. Let's read the dev note, the words, let's read these, eh? Let's be enlightened by who I assume is Peanuts on why this this perk has not been problematic and why speed hacking in the video game is actually viable, fun and legal. I bet they don't go on about how this perk's easy to activate as well. Every single fucking time a survivor gets picked up off the ground, this activates. But it won't be easy to activate, you know. Dev notes, background players' high movement speed allowed survivors to cross extreme distances to make a save. That's a very correct and bizarrely out of character observation there, behaviour. There was no way for the killer to reasonably check that area. Again, that's another very viable and correct assumption behaviour. Or observation, I should say, let alone defend against it. Yes, very correct. We have reduced the movement speed and instead reduced the exhaustion duration to compensate. Because we can't nerf survivor perks, can we? We can't stop the flow of drool from the corner of the mouths of survivor players, can we? We can't stop that. We have to compensate. Because otherwise, we'll be review bombed on the Steam store by fucking babies and man-childs who can't understand or can't accept, I will say, just to recycle my words there, accept how to take an L in the modern fucking gaming world, mate. We didn't have this problem with Evolve. Back in the day, people fucking knew how to take L's. Granted, back in Evolve's days, we were enjoying the beginning of it when people were trying to solo monsters as fucking medics. That was the beginning of the end of the ASIM genre. I've had many years now to assess and come to that conclusion. But this is what I say in my... it leads on to what I say in my videos all the time when we're in the era of the low IQ gamer. Mistakes can't be punished anymore. And here's a fucking divine example. Because, you know, we've got to nerf the move speed of what is essentially speed hacking every time the killer picks a survivor up, but we also have to give them this to keep them sweet, you know, because we'll be, as I say, I'm not having a go at behaviour when I say this, I'm having a go at the fucking community of absolute gremlins that play this game. They will be review bombed when stuff like this gets nerfed, because they're literal fucking children. But, you know, it's the reason why the game's in such a shit state, mate, because all the fucking just apes have found it and want easy wins for some reason, but there you go. Right, anyway, dev note. Yeah, we've just read that, haven't we? We've reduced the move speed. This was to make it harder to get a save. It won't make it harder. 150% move speed, still quite fast anyway, so it's not going to make it harder to get a save. And allow you to make attempts more often when it was already very oftenly used anyway. So there you go. Buffed, basically. I would consider, even with 50% trimmed off, this is still the default exhaustion perk, this one. Speed burst perk, I should say. So it's not a nerf. This has just been buffed. Grim Embrace, here we go. Decreased block duration, yep, from 6 to 8 to 10. We've trimmed 2 seconds off that. They haven't said... well, they haven't then, if they've not listed it. The fourth one, which I believe is 45 seconds. They haven't changed that. Dev note, Grim Embrace has quickly risen in both strength and popularity because it's gen defense since it was last changed. We've similarly toned it down slightly to move it more into the balance range it was already balanced, while keeping it rewarding for killers who choose to switch targets. So, you want to incentivize killers to switch targets based on this wording, yet you're complaining about Wesker tunneling and nerfing gen defense at the same time because of gen speeds, which is why tunneling happens, because killers are trying to get people out of the game and reduce it to a 3-man as quickly as possible so they have a fucking feasible chance. But you're nerfing things that incentivize not tunneling and going for new targets. Fucking hell. Decisive Strike. Is this a buff again? Change reduced stun duration to 4 seconds. Fucking hell, here come the review bombs. Fucking hell, we've shaved a second off, guys. That's it. Mostly negative on the Steam store. Until this gets switched back, you know, reverted. Our last update increased the stun duration to 5 seconds. This was a little too effective. Oh, do you think? It was still actually quite decent at 3 seconds. So we have fine-tuned the stun duration to 4 seconds instead. They basically just moved it to middle ground. It used to be 3 seconds. Then they moved it to 5, now it's 4. It's not, you know, it's not negative to change it back down to 4, but again, it still should only be 3. Again, as I mentioned when we was talking about Wesker, with the hindered situation, it's a similar vein. Whenever you buff this perk up to 5 seconds, you're not harming killers like Blight, Nerf, because they'll always just be able to catch up. So there's literally, whenever this is buffed, or, well, yeah, buffed, raised to a higher limit, you're nerfing all the worst killers in the game. Because it's basically just making it harder for people who can't gap close to get survivors. We're nerfing pop by the looks of things. Decreased regression effect to 20%. It was 30%, yep. 10% reduction. Bad take. Shit change. Of note, Pop Goes the Weasel has proven to be very strong, as it, and the conditions to activate it aren't very difficult. Hooking survivors, yeah. Yeah. And also, just be playing a killer with high mobility to actually get to the generator you need to hit as well, because if it's on the other side of the map by a change that was made a couple of patches ago now, where they've nerfed it down to 30 seconds from 60 to activate it, it's a bit too difficult, you know, or it isn't very difficult, I should say. But yeah, again, people don't play the game on the development team, so it's to be expected. To better reflect how it often comes into play, we have reduced the strength of its regression effect. Idiotic. Buckle up. Have we removed the uncountable? Removed. Buckle up no longer provides endurance. Thank fuck for that. New. Here we go. What's before I read this, I'm going to say it because it's the same as what I say when they nerf survivor perks, but buff it to something that's completely different. This will be some other bullshit fucking effect now that will make it just as problematic, just in a different flavour. Survivors healed from the dying state break into a sprint at 150% move speed for 5 seconds. This does not cause exhaustion. Oh, fucking hell. Okay. So what's going to happen now, ladies and gentlemen, basically, is... hang on a minute. This still works with For the People. This still works with For the People. Survivors healed from the dying state, which you would pick somebody up with For the People. That's healing them from the dying state. They then sprint at 150% move speed. This is not causing God. What does Soul Guard do? Isn't Soul Guard endurance for reviving somebody off the ground? So they've not actually removed it. They've just distributed it across some perks, right? If I'm right there. What the fuck does Soul Guard do? I'm sure it's endurance for something to do with dying states. I know it's unbreakable as long as the killer's got a hex, but I'm sure there's another part to it. But even so, you can still use For the People with that. Unless the killer is right on top of them when you use it. You just can't use it into face anymore. But as long as there's a little bit of distance, because you get up and you're still moving at 150% move speed, it's adrenaline off the ground. 5 seconds as well. Because I think sprint burst is only 3, I believe. Dev note, Buckle Up could be problematic when paired with For the People. It could be, guys. Could be. Because as you know, with Buckle Up and For the People, there was a million other different parameters the way it was used, you know. It could be problematic. Allowing survivors to save each other before the killer can pick them up risk-free. Yes. Since there's a lot of competition between perks which grant survivors endurance from the dying state, we've decided to replace the effect entirely to help it stand out. Now Buckle Up will instead grant the healed survivor a speed boost but not protect the rescuer from harm. Yes, you can still go for the rescuer. I still think you can use that with For the People. It's an anti-slug perk, because if the killer slugs somebody, they recover whilst on the ground. It only takes somebody to run over it. Say if they're running around shack or something, like a longer loop, and they run round one side where that survivor is, they can tap them, and then that person gets away for 5 seconds, 150%. Just at the push of a button, kind of. I think it's worse. It's worth it. Well, anything's worse than fucking something that's not got any counterplay. But it still has use. I have to see it in game. Scourge up pain res, here we go. Decrease regression effect to 10%, 15%, 20%. So it's a 5% regression. Note, pain resonance finds itself in almost 40% of all loadouts. Why? Why is that? Why do we think that is? This perk that performs consistently with gen defense and slowing gens down is in 40% of all loadouts. Why do we think that is? Couldn't be that there's something wrong with gen speeds, or there's something wrong with survivor repair speeds, things like that. Couldn't be that. Not a fucking chance. It's one of the most effective perks in the game. Maybe. We want to make this perk less of a clear choice for all builds. It's always going to be a clear choice until you address the gen situation. Fucking hell. I can't fucking... Oh. Do they go to school? Do these people go to school, ladies and gentlemen? I mean, I'm 27 years of age, you know. I'm assuming these people are actually older than me, thinking about it, on these dev teams. But I do consider myself to be an era of common sense, you know, from an era of common sense. Because I know the world's getting fucking dumber by the day, but holy fucking shit. A perk, Pain Resonance, finds itself in 40% of all loadouts. That would tell you that it's, you know, to address a problematic part of your game. Because it's basically mandatory in a lot of instances these days, you know. So let's nerf it to make it less viable. You know? Fucking hell. Meanwhile, you lose about 3 gens in the first chase, even if you play it perfectly. Fuck me. We'll keep it rewarding for killers who choose to chase multiple survivors again, and you're going on about tunneling. There's the other part of things. when you're trying to, you're bastardising killers and demonising them for tunnelling and all this and all the disgusting and all this bollocks, and it's like you're nerfing the things that you're saying in the same breath are rewarding for killers who choose to chase multiple survivors. It makes no fucking sense. It actually makes no fucking sense whatsoever. Invocation weaving spiders. Change. Decreased invocation time to 60 seconds was 100. So that's me rubbing my eyebrows. What fucking timeline do I find myself in, mate? Fucking hell. Evolve is dead. I am left with an ASIM that goes out of its way to make me look stupid for stupid people in gaming. And we're buffing perks for stupid people, whilst also nerfing the power roll into oblivion. Decreased invocation time to 60 seconds. That is a 50% decrease. So now it only takes 1 fucking minute to put brand new part on every generator on the map. Change. Invocation progress now regressed at a rate, that's a grammatical error, at a rate of 1 charge per second was 20 charges per second. So if you let go of it, this basically means it will not regress as fast either. So if the killer's coming down into the basement, or you think they are, you can jump off it, hide in one of the, what is it, 3, 5, 7 lockers in the basement, in which time the killer will have to search every single one, unless they find the one that you're in, which is a massive amount of time waste. Or they can leave to go and defend generators, or attempt to, and you can just basically jump out of the locker and go straight back onto it with very minimal progress lost. Now that we've had some time to see the invocation mechanic play out, we're ready to make some adjustments to both the invocation process in preparations for future invocation perks, all exciting, and weaving spiders itself. Invocations are meant to be a time commitment. Yes, you've trimmed it in half, but they took a little longer than we'd like. Why? This is putting brand new part on every fucking generator on the map. We've reduced them to 60 seconds to better fit the flow of a match. Why? Because gens are being done. Is that the flow of the match? Because there's about fucking 3 gens done in the time it takes for somebody to complete this perk that makes gens even faster. This can be further sped up by cooperating with other survivors. Oh yeah, it can, so it's not even 60 seconds actually. Fuck knows what that is now. Probably about 30. We've also slowed the regression effect to give survivors a chance to return to save some of their progress after they are chased away. Chased away. Fucking hell. Or just stay down there like I've just said, just jump in a locker, because the killer won't have time to search all these lockers. There's fucking 7 of them in the basement. These changes will be consistent amongst future invocation perks. These changes will be consistent among future invocation perks. So is what you're saying here, does that mean that invocation perks will come out with a bit of a large timer and then be fucking slashed at 50% a little bit further down the line? Are we just cementing that as something that's going to happen? Is an invocation perk. It might be a little bit weak at the beginning. 2 months later, boom, fucking massive buff. Usable. Right. Decimated Borgo, they've made it not red. That actually looks very dark, but Yeah, the red tinted lightning in the shattered square can make it difficult to see scratch marks. Yeah, yeah. But is that why it took so long? Because it's a killer thing. Scratch marks in it. You know, the map's been in the game for like what, fucking a year and a half now. Especially for colourblind players. Yeah, all the colourblind killers that haven't been able to play this map for a year and a half. We've completely changed the lighting on this map to address these concerns. Yeah, concerns that have been there for a year and a half. Item previews. Something else for the dumb people. I shouldn't say that because I fully acknowledge what the new player is. I know what the new player is. I'm actually pro new player, believe it or not. But what I'm not pro is fucking hand-holding so that people who start playing this game never have to progress past new player status, you know? Because they can fucking win from day one by second chance bullshit and gen speeds and all this bollocks, yeah? But I would take casual players and I would take day one players over sweat squads any day of the week. I want fuck all to do with esports. But as I've said previously with this game, when I say that this game makes you look stupid as the killer, anybody with moderate game knowledge in this game now, it's pretty much a fucking easy win for Survivor. Because I refuse to try anyway now in the game when the decently looping and all this and the hugging walls, or like a video I did recently with Nemesis where you put a pallet down, you'd go for the tentacle swing and they crouch on the highest part of the pallet wherever it falls, so you can't actually hit them. That kind of thing. It's fucking boring. I want nothing to do with it. Which is why I've started letting survivors out, so I stay at low MMR. I'm not ashamed to admit it because I want to have fun while playing games. And all these changes where you're nerfing gen regression and all that kind of thing is just making it not fun at higher MMR. So I've got no fucking reason to want to play it. Item previews, yeah. So they've reworked a pop-up for the items found in the trial. It looks very big though. It seems very cluttery to me. I mean, it tells you what it does, yeah, sure, but you could literally... It's the IQ of the people that play this game, innit? Because, I mean, if I was to, if it was my first game against Singularity and I found this crate, I'd take the EMP and think, right, I can use this on him, or I can use this near his pods, you know, that kind of thing. I would think of that, you know? I wouldn't have it fucking told to me, you know? It's fucking hand-holding, mate. The existing pop-ups for items were minimal, yeah, because it's an horror game. Showing only, well, it was supposed to be an horror game. Showing only the items icon and remaining charges. This relied on players knowing all the details of each item. No, it didn't. It relied on people fucking finding out what things did. Fucking hell. With a growing number of killer-specific items, that's getting harder to do. Ah, with a little explanation mark. It's getting harder to do. Don't you worry. Fucking hell. So yeah, any new killer that comes out now, guys, we're not going to have any sort of surprise or have to discover what things do, you know. It's just going to be, you're going to pick it up, big fucking plaque, is what it does. Fuck's sake. Removing the fucking spark, or what little spark this game's got left for the fucking stupid people. But yeah, there it is. That's the last one. We have plenty more surprises in store for the upcoming year. Fucking hell, I can't wait for them. Well, actually, it's been revealed now, innit? Dungeons and Dragons is the next chapter. I'm going to say a little piece on this as well, because this is to defend behaviour and anybody who is actually into Dungeons and Dragons, whilst also calling out how fucking childish the community of this game is. Because it relates, you know, across a lot of topics that I have with this game to discuss about the community being fucking underage. There's a lot of people who are now bitching and whining and expressing their heartfelt disappointment that it's Dungeons and Dragons and not their favourite, you know, robot bow tie wearing fucking robot rabbit that's been, you know, not getting added to the game. Because we've got something that's potentially unique and might actually be engaging coming to the game. But apparently there's a lot of people hating on it at the moment because it's not, as I say, a robot rabbit, you know, coming to the game. So it is what it is. but I'm actually quite curious, to be honest. There's been a couple of good ideas. One of the chief leakers, as they're called on the leaks part of this game, the leaks thread, I should say, has said it's only one survivor, which is quite disheartening because I've seen a couple of people mention a pretty cool idea with Dungeons and Dragons being this thing where it's like a role-playing game, but you make your own character and you sort of you're involved. I think you're involved in it just as much as yourself, your physical being, as your OC that you make is. And a couple of people have said that maybe it's two survivors, where it'd be one survivor that's from the real world, and then the other survivor is actually their OC from this tabletop game. You know, it's the two characters. And I had the idea, me personally, to further this in bringing teamwork perks back. If you don't know what the teamwork perks are, these were introduced with Thalita and Renato, in which survivors working together would gain certain buffs. So with a person and their OC being in the same game together, or at least the perks anyway, there would be teamwork perks, you know? A guy working with their literal fucking OC next to him, you know? It'd be really cool, that kind of thing. Be fucking unique, mate, to have that sort of thing. I don't think nothing's ever done that before, but apparently, according to the actual leakers, it's only one survivor, so I don't know who they're bringing in. They might just be bringing in an actual D&D type of survivor, you know, rather than it being the person and their OC, that kind of thing. It's just the OC. Everybody seems to be massively desiring a hot tiefling survivor at the moment, which I'm fully in support of as a demoness appreciator. But anyway, less of that. Killer-wise, everybody seems to think this is Vecna from Dungeons & Dragons Vecna, not Stranger Things Vecna. Because obviously the monsters in Stranger Things are named after the monsters from Dungeons & Dragons. You've got the Demogorgon, and then you've got, I think the Mind Flayer's part of it as well, and obviously Vecna. Somebody made a very interesting take, though, as well, just to mention this at the end here, because as you'll see by the 8 that is on the logo here for the anniversary, it's spider legs. There is a D&D character who goes by the name of Lolth. It's quite an odd name to say. Lolth, Lolth, who is a half spider, half woman. Which I, based on appearances personally, I would prefer this over Vecna. Just because she's a monster girl and it's a bit more unique rather than just another humanoid killer. That's, you know, I mean, he's a lich, but at the same time, it's like, it's just, to me, it's just a humanoid killer, you know. A half spider woman would be really fucking cool to see in the game. She'd probably also be the biggest killer we'd have so far, I think, just based on the size. But yeah, with it being, there's a lot in this particular banner where it says Mighty Calendars and that kind of thing. There's a lot of spider stuff going on, and I know the entity is a spider. She is like a space spider. I always refer to her as a she. Headcanon is that the entity is female to me because spiders. Most of the time when you see a spider, it's a female, because female spiders eat male spiders. So it would make sense that the entity is single. But yeah, just with all the references of spiders, it could just be the entity, obviously, but at the same time, it's nice to think that it could be Lolth, you know, and we could be getting a half spider killer, which is really cool. But yeah, anyway, there's my thoughts on the patch notes. Absolute fucking train wreck. I can't wait to play patch 8. So I'll love you and leave you. Yeah, that is everything. There you go. See you on the next one.